insane thing I've ever experienced. What the hell am I doing with my life? Once upon a time, this was our arsenal. It's a massive tourist attraction. With that comes opportunity for some and for the massive backlash.
There's a lack of respect for the traditions because mass tourism comes very aggressively.
Ya muchos turistas se están apoderando de nuestras costumbres y las están modificando.
And how many of these people walking these streets really have a clue what this holiday is? Or are they just here to party?
The festival is certainly a lot of fun, but does it still represent an authentic Mexican experience? And in an era of mass tourism, does such a thing even exist? I'm visiting Oaxaca, a state synonymous with indigenous culture, and a popular stop for Instagrammers.
Oaxaca is all the rage right now.
I'm working and living in Oaxaca City.
I cannot believe that this is my life and I got to experience this.
The city centre is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But after a morning walking its streets, things are starting to feel somewhat surreal.
I mean, to begin with, when you see all this stuff, it looks amazing, it's really exciting, and you think it's so traditional and so wonderful. I've been here for a little while now, and I'm just sort of starting to be overwhelmed by marigolds and skulls.
Mexico is changing. International tourists and digital workers arrive in their droves, appropriating culture, gentrifying neighbourhoods, and distorting the economy with their greater spending power. This has led to growing anger and protests around the country.
Oaxaca que nosotros conocimos o con el que crecimos ya no existe.
Paula and Flor are local women fighting against the effects of mass tourism on Oaxaca City, which has seen a 77% increase since the pandemic.
Estamos pagando las consecuencias de que venga ese turismo, porque los precios de las viviendas aumentan, la canasta básica aumenta, todo aumenta. Le preguntamos a una persona que trabaja en el sector turístico si lo que gana le alcanza para vivir dignamente, la respuesta es que no.
Realmente hay demasiada gente comprando en Oaxaca y más en el centro. Hay mucho americano, mucho extranjero. Ya ha comprado muchas personas que la hacen Airbnb.
This is one of the neighbourhoods very close to the centre of Oaxaca. It never used to look like this. This used to have local people living here. Local people have had to move elsewhere because they can't afford the rent.
Most of the key concerns here are kind of cost of living issues, but beyond that there's this whole cultural issue as well, with Oaxaca swiftly becoming a kind of Mexican Disneyland.
I think for the people, my understanding, it's a blessing but also a curse.
Yeah, I can see why the locals are struggling.
I think it's hard to find a balance between getting money from tourists and then keeping it local.
Do you think we need to be better tourists?
Yes.
And how do we do that?
You know, that is, that is really a difficult question.
To attempt to answer it, I need to escape the city for Oaxaca's rural indigenous heartlands.
They have to mix by hand, so all of this is going to be mixed by hand.
You could sell this as a jacuzzi as part of your wellness retreat, couldn't you?
I'm on a family-run cactus farm in Santiago, Matalan, the traditional home of Mezcal. My guide here is Lily Palmer Santos, a California native from an indigenous Oaxacan family.
I'm a proud descendant of the Zapotec people, a civilization that has existed for more than 3,000 years and still exists in Oaxaca.
After returning to her roots in 2013, Lily set up Zapotec Travel, which focuses on responsible tourism and greater representation for indigenous and woman-led businesses in the region.
It's difficult to see tourism as anything but sort of an extractive process, right? I get the sense that indigenous people really aren't benefiting from that enough.
That is the reason why it started. I felt my people weren't being compensated. A cheap tour equals that someone down the line is getting the short end of the stick, and that was always indigenous people. It was never on their terms. They didn't have agency. They couldn't set their prices.
Global interest in mezcal has boomed in recent years, attracting interest from major drinks companies.
Salud. Salud.
But for traditional farmers like the Lopez family, this boom has only brought falling prices and an overcrowded market.
Tourist trap, Bacardi vehicle.
Authentic?
They're selling cheap tours or free tours just to get people drunk.
It's beyond just being a drink, right? And it's beyond being something that you sell to people.
The people used to make mezcal to enjoy with their families, not necessarily to be sold, but to bring community together, to drink with the ones that are not with us anymore. That's the connection that we have, because that drink comes from this land. There's no money that can buy that tradition, that culture, that legacy.
Perfect. Like fish and chips.
This one is for gentrification of my people's town. Ugh.
We've seen in the city, the Instagram mindset is perhaps part of the problem, right? You also, of course, do use Instagram, and you've been very successful in growing your business through Instagram.
It's so much of one algorithm and people wanting certain things, the aesthetics, but I know that I can be part of the algorithm that's forcing things to change and making things to change, and I've seen it happen and I've been successful. These are fresh, they're about to sell out. It's first come, first serve, so get your butt here. I'm very specific about getting the right message out there, and not just any random post where I'm just like showing you flowers, but I'm showing you flowers and the message is support indigenous when you come to Oaxaca for Day of the Dead in 2026.
For many Mexicans, this is a sacred festival, marking the 3-day return of loved ones from the dead. But once intimate cemetery rituals are now a big draw, with locals complaining that insensitive tombstone tourism is becoming commonplace.
I feel a little weird vlogging in the cemetery here. Lots of video cameras and people with big long lenses.
It's become like a zoo. It's disrespectful to me. As a family, we would visit our loved ones, and we visit them year round. You know, clean it up a little, add some more water. That's how we take care of our ancestors. For the vigil, we eat our dinner here, like on top of the tombs. And we have mezcal, we have beer.
Ya sabes que siempre tomamos un cigarro los dos juntos, caminamos, platicamos, con mucho respeto para ti, Padre. Sé que en el lugar donde estás es un lugar muy bonito para ti. Gracias por ser mi Padre.
There is something specific about the indigenous story, right? And the history of indigenous people is a history of things being taken from them over many, many years.
You're hurting me with these questions.
Is this just another example that the culture is now being taken from you as well?
We certainly feel that way, but it stops with us. It stops with me. What I can do in the space of tourism is I'm trying to combat exactly that. The Secretary of Tourism has a lot of responsibility, and I don't think they really care. Que no se van a llevar lo que es nuestro.
A new highway links Oaxaca City to the beach town of Puerto Escondido, now the focal point for tourism's rapid development along Oaxaca's Pacific coast.
Places you need to visit before they are too popular. This hidden paradise in Mexico is perfect for those seeking a mix of relaxation and adventure.
And unsurprisingly, there is not the infrastructure to cope with this massive, massive upturn in tourists. Even this is new, the traffic jam, something that Puerto Escondido once upon a time couldn't imagine, but now it's like Tenerife.
Alongside the increase in tourism, Puerto Escondido has become attractive to digital nomads, who stay for longer, drive rents higher, and are exempt from local taxes.
I've only been here for 3 or 4 days, but obviously I know that I'm adding to local problems, I suppose. You know, I would say that this is the world that we live in now, and it's up to these local authorities, I'd say, to do something. You know, I'm happy to pay taxes anywhere that I go.
I lived in the US for a long time, and the government made sure that I had my visa, that I paid my taxes, that I was working on what I said I was working, and the government is not doing that here, you know?
Puerto Escondido was once a small fishing village, but the relentless expansion of recent years has called into question the sustainability of Oaxaca's tourism model.
Cerca del mar.
Y es la vida aquí en el mar, mucha contaminación, en tiempo de lluvia mucha basura.
So this is where it all began.
This is where it all began. Puerto Escondido was,
Almendra Gomez Leiva is a local activist working to protect what is left of the unspoiled coast.
It started a little bit before the pandemic, I think through social media, that Puerto Escondido became popular. People start looking at Puerto like an investment opportunity. There were like people building without even stepping a foot here. We felt kind of colonized because everything was in English. There were parties where locals were allowed. We felt like invaded.
But on top of that now, there's an environmental crisis as well.
Yeah, we didn't have the infrastructure. So a lot of people start building and there's no sewage system. So they have like septic system and the government didn't regulate that. So sometimes we have spills. It causes like the pollution of the oceans too.
Here on a beach a little outside town, what constitutes sustainable tourism is less idyllic than the social media posts will have you believe.
This might be the most magical thing I've ever done in Mexico. Tonight, we joined a church release in Puerto Escondido.
Okay, before we start, how are you guys doing today? Good, okay. Thank you so much for your good vibes.
Welcome to Puerto Escondido baby turtle release, or as some people like to call it, seabird feeding time. At least we're having an experience.
You can take a picture?
Sure, why not? Oh my God, they're too cute. Be on your way. Don't get eaten.
They told us that it's an NGO that's for a good cause. They support the wildlife here. It's supposed to be sustainable tourism. I hope that's true.
Are you surprised with how it sort of is orchestrated?
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, isn't it? A lot of turtles, though.
We didn't expect that many people.
Yeah, me either. And maybe there's no damage being done by this whole process.
Yeah.
It can feel very difficult to feel like you're being a good tourist at times, right?
Yeah. I suppose it makes some people feel better. I don't know if it makes me feel better.
Right, I think mine's about to go. Next time, next wave. He's gone. No, he's still there. So many people queuing up for their chance to sort of have a photo with a turtle is a little bit unsavoury. But potentially there's good things coming out of it as well. I mean, like Oaxaca, you know, what's real, what's helping? I mean, I'm naturally cynical about these things, and I sort of worry that we're doing more harm than good here. Memorable thing for your Instagram. Is that enough? Don't think so. Tricky.
A little further down the coast lies Manialtepec Lagoon, one of the world's most important sites for bioluminescence.
Para mí es nuestra madre. Está viva. La naturaleza está viva y te trata como tú la trates a ella.
For now at least, tourism here remains comparatively low-key and beneficial to the local economy. But as visitor numbers grow, so too will the existential threat caused by increased human contamination. As is the custom, I have removed my clothes, ready to go into this sort of tent-like structure which keeps out the light, because it's quite a light evening with the full moon, and we're hopefully going to see some bioluminescence. A moment of tranquility for me, but as tourism continues its inevitable spread further along this coast, the battle to retain the real Oaxaca creeps ever closer.